That's a basic function of life, isn't it? Be able to sit down, stand up. But it's interesting, this study actually shows us that our ability to sit down and stand up unaided is a real indicator of our mortality and how long we'll continue to live for and how long we'll have a healthy life. And I'll show you how you can test yourself simply at home to assess your own mortality risk by doing this very simple exercise of from standing up, sitting down, and standing up again. So this interesting study had over 2,000 participants aged between 51 and 80 years old. And what they assessed for these individuals is their ability to go from standing to sitting and back up again, and their usage of their arms and knees to support them doing that activity. And each time they needed to use either their arms or knees to help them either to sit or to stand, a point was deducted from 10 to identify their ability, and then they were scored against a range. That range, their score, was then used to assess against mortality and the risk of mortality over the next 14 years. And what the study found, amazingly, was that those that scored the lowest score, as in used more supports from their arms or knees, had a higher risk of mortality, not surprisingly, but it was 5 to 6 times greater than those who scored the highest score, therefore using the least support. And the study goes on to say that every 1 point increase in score decreases your risk of dying by 21%. So let's go through this methodology of how this study was performed. What you need to do is stand up tall, cross your legs, and control your movement down to a seating position. And to do this and to score the highest marks, you need to sit down without using either your knees or your hands, pause at the bottom, and then rise again without using any support from your knees, hands, or arms. And now let's take a look at some examples of where we are using our elbows, hands, knees, or legs to assist us in sitting down or standing up. So in this example, we used our hand both to assist us sitting down and standing up, and therefore 2 points will be deducted from 10 to give us a grand total of 8. And in the second example, we use our hand and our knee to get to sitting position. And then to stand, we use our hand and our knee again to stand, which would be 4 points taken away from the total of 10. And in the final example, I use both knees and both hands to assist me sitting down, and then stand up. I use both hands and one knee to help me stand up. And that would be a total of 7 points deducted from 10. So let's break this down and see what the score you achieved means to your mortality. How do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we need to calculate the number of times we use support when either sitting down or standing up. And then we subtract this number from 10 to give us a score. And now we'll look at what that score means in terms of range and our mortality. So the first results we'll look at are the results of the test against age ranges. So you can see on the left-hand side of this graph, on the vertical axes, we have the age ranges from 55 all the way up to 80. And on the horizontal axis, we have the full participants all the way up to 100% of the participants with this specific range they achieved. So I'll draw an example out. When we look at the 51 to 55 age range, the lowest bar, we can see the majority of people scored between 8 and 10. But you can see that a small number achieved 0 to 3 in their score. At the top end of the bar, you can see the cohort of 76 to 80-year-olds, and you can see the large majority achieve 0 to 3, with a small number achieving 8 in their score. In fact, the results of the test show that no one over 70 achieved the full score of 10 out of 10. So why don't we now go on to what your individual score means. Sadly, if you score between 0 and 3, what this means is you've got a 5 to 6 times higher risk of mortality over the next 14 years when compared to those that scored 8 out of 10. That's a huge difference, but there are things you can do about that, and we'll look at those shortly. What's important to note is your score, even if it increases by 1 or 2 points, it can make a large difference to your mortality risk. If your score is above 3 and below 8, then you can see from the graph the mortality risk reduces, and that's a great result. And finally, if you scored between 8 and 10, you had the lowest risk of mortality in the 14-year follow-up, as you can see from this graph. A great result, one you should be very proud of. So what does this all mean? To me, it suggests that those in the lowest scores should introduce a program of exercise to improve their strength, flexibility, and mobility. Now, they should do this in conjunction with their health advisor, but I think it's an important step which can dramatically increase your health, but also extend how long you live for. So next, we're going to move on to a couple of exercises you can do to increase mobility, flexibility, and strength. Before we do, I'd love to hear how you got on in the comments. Please subscribe, like, and click on the notification bell, and you'll be advised when the next video comes out.